Hello fifth graders, today we're going to go over how to subtract decimals, how to add, how to multiply improper fractions, and how to do order of operations. The first section we're going to go over is how to subtract decimals, and we're going to find a missing number for number 2. So it says 3 minus blank, which is our missing number, equals 1.4. So on the right side over here, I'm going to rewrite this by replacing the missing number with a variable, and in this case, I'm going to use the variable x. So if you replace it, you should get 3 minus x equals 1.4. Now, if you see over here, the x is being subtracted from the 3, which results in x being negative, sort of. And so I want to make it positive. I don't like working with negative variables. So in order to make it positive, I'm going to add x to both sides. So on the left side, I'm going to be left with 3. On the right side, I'm going to be left with 1.4 plus x. And if you notice over here, it says plus x, which is exactly what I wanted. So now, in order to isolate this x value, I need to get rid of this 1.4. And to get rid of this 1.4, I need to subtract 1.4 to both sides. That will result in just x on the right side and 3 minus 1.4. Now, this is where the subtracting decimal comes in. So we have to do 3.0 minus 1.4. And when you're subtracting decimals, make sure that when you're placing the values, your decimals have to match like this, on top of each other like this. So if you subtract it this way, this is incorrect. Or even this is also incorrect. It has to be like this. Now, once you get it in the correct format, which is with the decimals aligning, you're just going to subtract normally, and you'll get 1 and 6. Now, your decimal place should also match again with this, so it should be 1.6 as you're on the left side, making x equal to 1.6. So basically, your final answer says 3 minus 1.6 equals 1.4. Now, the second section we're going to go over is addition, and we're going to be finding a missing number, which is very similar to the last lesson, except this involves just adding integers. Now we're going to go over number 1. It says 86 equals missing number plus 38 plus 14. Now I'm going to replace this missing number with a variable, and I'm going to use x again. So it will be 86 equals x plus 38 plus 14. Now to make it easier, I like to just add these two together and simplify the right side. So I'm going to add these together on the right side. You'll be left with x plus 52. Now to isolate the x value, you have to get rid of this plus 52, and in order to get rid of that plus 52, you're going to subtract 52 to both sides. And you're going to be left with only x on the right side and 86 minus 52, which you're going to subtract, and you'll get 34. So your missing number should be 34. And what this means in your final answer is that 34 plus 38 plus 14 equals 86. Now the third section we're going to go over is how to multiply improper fractions. And we're going to be finding the product for number 3 and number 4. So I'm going to go over number 3. It says 5 over 2 times 3 over 2. Now when you're multiplying improper fractions, it's the same thing as when you're just multiplying fractions. You're going to be multiplying across like this. The numerator times the numerator, denominator times the denominator. So you'll be left with 15 on the numerator and 4 on the denominator. Now always to check is that if you're simplified all the way, and in this case 15 over 4 is simplified all the way. Now for number 4, 14 over 8 times 8 over 3. Now before we get into this problem, something you should always check is that when you look across from here, let me label this. When you look at it from cross multiplier perspective, you can simplify before you even multiply. So if you see over here in this box over here, 8 and 8 are alike, which means you can just cancel these out. And on the second box here, 14 and 13, they don't have a factor, so you're just going to leave them be. So you basically have 14 times 1 over 1 times 3, which is equal to 14 over 3. Now, this may be confusing, so you can instead do, without the cross multiplying simplifying, you can just proceed to do what I did for number 3. So you're just going to do 14 times 8, which you'll see that you'll get 112, and then 8 times 3, which is 24. Now, this is a big number to deal with. That's why I prefer to always simplify before we get into the multiplying process, because it's much harder to work with bigger numbers. Now, you'll see that you can both divide by 8 as the highest number, and you'll be left with 14 in the numerator and 3 as your denominator. Again, same thing. So you can either simplify before you multiply, or you can simplify after you multiply. I personally like to simplify before, because the numbers are much more easier to deal with. So number 4, your answer should be 14 over 3. Now the last section we're going to go over is order of operations, and we're going to be finding an answer for number 1 and number 2. And over here I have the PEMDAS order. P for parentheses, A for exponent, M for multiplication, D for division, A for addition, S for subtraction. So number 1 and number 2 deals with only subtraction, and if you look at the other problems, only addition is dealt with, plus the parentheses. So number 1 I'm going to go over. So they're all subtraction. Now you're going to be wondering which subtraction should we go over. It really doesn't matter. You should go from left to right generally. So you're going first to 28 minus 8, and you'll end up with 20. And then I'm going to rewrite this. And then you're going to 20 minus 7, which is 13. And then you're going to do 13 minus 6, and you'll see that that is equal to 7. And then 7 minus 5 equals 2. So your final answer for number 1 should be 2. Now, number 2 over here says 28 minus 8 minus 7 minus. Now we have our parentheses coming over here, and we know that the parentheses is higher than that of subtraction. So we're going to do the parentheses first. So we're going to get 28 minus 8 minus 7 minus, and in our parentheses we should get 1. 6 minus 5 is 1. Now from here, we're going to go from left to right, just like we did for number 1. 28 minus 8, 20, and you're wondering why I'm doing left to right. It's because the order of operation is just one common thing, which is subtraction. Now 20 minus 7 is 13, minus 1, which is 12. So your final answer for number 2 should be 12. And so order of operation, make sure it goes from up to down when you're doing the order. And if you only have the same operation in the same problem, then you're just going to go from left to right to solve it. And that's it for today.